This week on Another Movie Podcast, we talk about the possibility of Jake Gyllenhaal joining the Spider-Man franchise.
Our old friend from the gut of a sarlacc might come out and get his own film.
Well, I don't even know what that means, but hopefully it's good. And Peter Jackson mulls over whether he should join the DCEU or return to Lord of the Rings.
I think that's a loser either way at this point.
Hello and welcome back to Another Movie Podcast. I am Sean Pierce.
And I am Sean Kelly.
And we have been away for a very special reason. A new entry has joined the family of our fellow podcaster, Sean Kelly. And congratulations on your newborn son.
Thank you. I feel weird as the husband or the guy. Everyone's saying, congratulations. And it's like, I did the fun bit.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do anything else. So I'll pass it on to Jack. And I do appreciate it. But it's been, as you know, with two boys, it's hectic.
Congratulations on your new restless nights, your stressed out afternoons, and all the fun bits in between.
Yeah, exactly right. The sliver of fun that you get in amongst all of that. And
he's 2 or 3 weeks old now.
Well, he was born on the oh my god, I'm gonna have to edit this out.
Worst dad ever.
I am the worst dad ever. He was born on the... Is it 2 weeks old?
I'm going to go with 3 years. It's his third birthday.
My god, time really flies.
Yeah, you are horrible at this.
No, he was born on the 10th.
Okay,
No,
cool.
he was born on the 9th. I'm really glad that Jackie does not listen to this podcast. He was born on Wednesday the 9th of May.
Okay, well, congratulations.
So
how's the first 3 weeks been?
Well, I'm blessed, and we won't talk about it too much because it is a movie podcast. But I'm very blessed with having a wife who is such a trooper. So I wake up, but I can go back to sleep because she just takes care of everything during the nights.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm very lucky.
No, good stuff. Well, usually they say the first 6 weeks is the worst part, which is true. I remember with Ryder that bled into like 12 weeks, then 24 weeks. So, and speaking of which, I want to give a quick shout out to my older son, Ryder. He turns 8 tomorrow.
Hey!
Yes, much like yourself, I actually know when my son was born. So a big happy birthday to him for tomorrow on Sunday, the 27th.
You should get in the Fantastic Four Blu-ray.
Well, as I said, we still have to negotiate which live movies that he goes to. So I'm still trying to work him into going to see Ant-Man and Wasp.
Yes.
So I think that should be a shoo-in, but everything else is a real struggle.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
But as I said, my youngest one now is 4.5, turning 5. So, in the near future, I won't even bother with the oldest one. I'll just take the younger one. And then eventually he'll get jealous and will just come because he doesn't want to miss out. That's my master plan.
Playing the long game, I like it.
Correct. All right, well, let's kick into the movie news, shall we?
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
All right, well, it's been a semi-decent week for trailers. There's some older trailers that we haven't spoken about because we were away, but I would still like to because there's some hit and misses there. The first one is one that I was quite looking forward to and then was kind of let down when I saw it, and that was The Predator.
Yes, it looked, like the poster, it looked kind of cheesy and generic. Derivative, I think, is the way you could say. Because, like you, I was pretty excited for this.
It's got Shane Black, who's written and directed this. And, he's coming off Iron Man 3, The Long Kiss, not Long Kiss Goodnight, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and the one he did with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. I remember that one.
Good Guys or something.
Yeah,
like
The
that.
Good Guys. Yeah. So, he's had a pretty good track record, and to see him take on this franchise, which he was originally in the first one, I thought, this could be pretty cool. But, kind of like what Venom looked like in his trailer, it just looks like a generic, mid-90s action movie, and that shit ain't going to fly anymore, to be honest.
I like the idea of playing with... nostalgia and that kind of thing, and postmodernism and revisiting what's come before. But it's not It's not like having an interesting spin on it. It's literally just a '90s movie. I really hope that this trailer was cut together by somebody terrible because I don't want this movie to be bad.
It's funny because they've kind of blended the first two films. Like we've seen flashbacks of the guy who's in Narcos. Looks like he's playing the Arnold Schwarzenegger role in the jungle hunting down the predator,
Yeah.
which looks like he successfully did, and looks like he's brought something back. And now his son's turned on a transmitter,
Yeah.
and now the predator's coming into the city, which is what happened in Predator 2. So it just kind of looks like a mash of the two films. And as I said, nothing there has excited me one bit for this film.
And I'm actually not just even bored, but I'm a little bit worried because they're talking about they're going for hybridization or something.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, there's not a huge pool of established Predator lore, but that doesn't seem like it fits in with any of the established mythos, which makes me a little bit worried. They're going the Jurassic World route and like, how can we make it even more scary than the last ones? You don't need to. They're scary themselves. Just keep them as they are.
Yeah, so I think it's a wait and see on this one. There's not much love coming out of this podcast for the Predator film so far. There's another one, a film that I've been waiting a long time to see. It's been in the works for so long. Sacha Baron Cohen was originally attached to star in this film as Freddie Mercury, but we finally seen, and then of course Bryan Singer was fired from this film, and now another director has taken place, and that is the film Bohemian Rhapsody, based on obviously the band Queen.
Yeah, and I'm a big Queen fan, a big Freddie fan, and I was really looking forward to hating this movie and being stuck up about it, but I thought the trailer looked pretty good.
Yeah, so do I. I think the guy who plays the lead, Rami Malek, he's in a TV show called Mr. Robot. If you haven't seen it, get on it. It's awesome. He looks spot on in this film.
Yeah, he absolutely
But it's actually caused some controversy, though, because it looks like, from what we've seen so far, is that they're not really touching on, obviously, he died of AIDS, not really touching on that. He was also a homosexual as well, and they're not touching on those elements as well. A lot of people have complained about that. Brian Fuller, who's a big TV producer, actually wrote this massive tweet saying, "Shame on you for not including this in the trailer." It's still early days. It's only the first. It's basically a teaser trailer. We haven't even got the full trailer yet. So, wait and see. And that was one of the reasons why Sacha Baron Cohen dropped out, because the film, in his opinion, should be touching on those, which I agree on as well, because there's so many incredible documentaries. I think there's one called The Day in the Life, and it's basically all about Freddie Mercury and Queen, and it is so damn good. So, this film would have to be just as good to kind of cement his legacy, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. And if you're going to make the quintessential Freddie film, you need to include all of those elements. But yeah, well, it's a wait and see. Like I said, I was buoyed by the trailer, but we'll see.
Well, they've nailed the look and they nailed the tone, the era. So fingers crossed, they can do it. But I hope it's not just a fluff piece. I hope we do get to see, the nit and gritty.
Agreed.
There's another film this week, and I'm just like, oh no, Warner Brothers, you've done it again. The apparently more darker version of The Jungle Book called Mowgli.
Yeah. This is because everyone was saying, how are they making two Jungle Book films at the same time when the Jon Favreau one was being put together? And I thought the same thing, but it looks like they've taken it looks like a sequel.
Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking of this. For me, this just looks like the same turd they popped out and box office flop in Tarzan 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I just think this one's headed for disaster, because realistically, who the hell wants to see a dark version of The Jungle Book? The Jungle Book was the Disney one we saw 2 years ago, Jon Favreau made, was so damn good because, it just captured everything that you loved about Disney and the Jungle Book original film and just made it so much better. I thought it was actually better than the cartoon. Yeah. So do I necessarily want to see a darker version of that? No. Yeah. It made $1 billion because families were able to go and see this film. Are you going to take your kid to watch a darker version of the Jungle Book? I'm definitely not. So no. I reckon they're in for a world of hurt on this film.
And the cast we've got Cate Blanchett, Benedict Cumberbatch. Is this Andy Serkis' directorial debut?
It is, yes.
So I think that's really, I think it's a passion project for him, and I think he's going to be a little bit disappointed by how it all turns out. I'm sorry, Andy, if you're listening.
Yeah, as I said, it's a thumbs down for me so far. The reviews would have to be good for me to watch it, so I'm not excited for that one.
Yeah.
But there is one that I'm semi-excited for. The full trailer of the new Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, possibly franchise, came out this week, and it's called Skyscraper. To me, this looks like his version of Die Hard.
Yeah, I was going to say, we were talking about 90s nostalgia, and I think this is something that does the 90s nostalgia. It seems to be doing it well. It's taking some of those tropes, but it's sort of it still looks like a fresh new movie, even though
Yeah,
it could have very well have belonged in the 90s.
this has the potential to be a lot of fun, or it's going to be a massive turd. So I think it's treading that fine line very carefully. As I said, you would think that the star power of The Rock would bring this one through, but it didn't actually. His star power didn't really do much favor for Rampage, which came out this year. So it might be a wait and see on that one. It seems to be a lot of hit and miss. Like he hit it out of the park with the Jumanji film, and Rampage was just so. It's a wait and see whether he can pull this one out of the bag.
I think you're right. I think this is going to go down the Die Hard road, and we're going to get Skyscraper 6 in it like a decade.
Yeah, well, that's why he can command. I think it was like $20 million a film. God. Actually, I was reading an article about the amount of money that he makes, and he has a clause in his contract now that on top of his fee, he requests $1 million fee to promote his the films on social media. So on his Instagram, on
which
his
is pretty nice.
Which is for something where you just pick up the phone and you do 30 seconds of. To get $1 million just to promote yourself on Instagram is pretty sweet.
And can I just say, like, if you're listening, Hollywood executives, I'll do it for half that. That's such a saving. And you'll get 13 people, 5 of which are bots, but they will hear about this film. And that's pretty good.
$10.
Yeah.
Dirt cheap.
That's lunch.
Yeah, exactly. Just give us lunch. Done. All right, well, this week it was the big release of the new Star Wars film Solo, and because we're so professional and we do our research, none of us actually went and saw it. So,
well, I have an excuse.
Yeah, you have a good excuse. I've got a good excuse. I've had a massive week this week. I just could not squeeze it in.
Yeah,
but I'm hopefully going to see it next week.
Yeah.
But we did see Deadpool last week, so we're going to talk about that at the end of this podcast. But Star Wars, on the release of their big film this week, just dropped the news that I reckon is pretty damn exciting. And the next spin-off film that we're going to see is a Boba Fett film.
Oh, Boba Fett, yeah. This is what I was talking about. This is coming out of the guts of the Sarlacc pit at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, this is the film everyone wanted to see. It's one of the most beloved characters who gets as little screen time as any, but they've attached a writer-director that will get fanboys quite firm, and that is James Mangold, who's coming off, obviously, the fantastic film in Logan last year.
I thought you were going to say coming off Fantastic Four.
No.
You are mistaken, my friend. That was terrible.
Yes.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting because hopefully, finally, he will do something good.
Yeah.
Because Disney have retconned all of the expanded universe stuff, so anything that you read about in the stories is not true. So yeah, I think if it's James Mangold as well, I could see an awesome space western.
Yeah, I hope so too. I reckon that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, we knew a little bit with the Clone Wars. Is that the second? Was that episode 2? The Clone Wars. Yeah. So they kind of touched on his father and a little bit of his upbringing, but there's a massive gap between that and then when we saw him in Empire. So fingers crossed they can kind of do justice to that character, which everyone loves so much. And as you said, there's not a lot of good story that they've put out already for him. So fingers crossed they can come up with something new and fresh.
And I just want to put it out there that Daniel Logan, who played Boba Fett in the original, like young Boba Fett, kid Boba Fett, he's the right age to play the character now.
Yeah, this is true, actually.
And he looks pretty buff, so I reckon he could. It'd be awesome if he could pick up the role again.
Is he still an actor?
I don't know, but he cosplays as Boba Fett.
Well, that's enough.
Yeah,
that's enough. They could always just do the additional dialogue on top of because he wears a mask. You're not going to see him talk anyway, so they could always, if he has bad pronunciation or something, they could always just do voiceover.
Do you know the story about how the original Boba Fett actor stuffed up his one line?
No.
He has the one line which is "Put Captain Solo in the cargo hold" when they're like taking his body out when it's been carbonated, whatever. And he said that the line he said was "Put Captain Cargo in the Solo hold," and he stuffed up his one line, and then they just redubbed it later, so it didn't matter. But still, he had one line and he messed it up.
That's why I'm saying now it's perfect. They can just do whatever they want to. The man in the mask, kind of like what Deadpool did. Like,
yeah,
we'll talk about that later. But realistically, they could rewrite the whole movie with his dialogue in post production because you can't see his mouth move anyway.
Exactly
so they could
right.
whatever they want to.
Unless they go down the road like the the old Spawn movie where they just have him with his mask off the whole time, and it's like, dude, that's not what I paid money to see.
Correct.
Anyway.
All right. Well, with the release of Solo, we spoke about many months ago that the original directors, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, were fired almost 3/4 through production and then replaced with Ron Howard. And there's always been a lot of speculation about how much of the film was theirs and how much of the film is Ron Howard's. Well, an article came out this week and they're saying that basically 70% of the new Solo film is Ron Howard's film.
Which, look, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know how to feel about it. But it seems like it's good. You don't want to be 50-50. I think that would be a mistake. That would be too jarring. But 70%, I think that's enough to establish a tone throughout the film.
Well, it's quite incredible how, obviously, this is the second spin-off film. Rogue One apparently was a massive disaster when it was in the production, and they pretty much replaced the director or had someone look over his shoulder the whole time and reshot things. And it's amazing how, like, 2 for 2 now, they've gotten it wrong really badly. Luckily, these films make a shit ton of money, so they're not necessarily losing. But, how do they keep getting this wrong?
Look, I don't know. But, anyway, sorry.
And then especially, like, they're more than happy to jump in with this and fix this, but they let Rian Johnson pretty much rape The Last Jedi and let him get away with it.
Look, some people like The Last Jedi. And there were moments of it I
from
thought...
my tone, I don't. So.
Yeah, I know. There were moments of it that I thought were good. I don't know why... Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to go and talk to the executives. Maybe some people felt a lot more precious about this particular franchise, or maybe they thought, with the central trilogy, the central storyline, you can't really do any wrong because it's so established. But they've proven that's not the case.
Well, they've basically come out and said this week as well that the 2 original directors wanted to take this story in a more Guardians of the Galaxy approach, but Ron Howard has come back in to basically keep the spirit of the original trilogy in this film.
I think the turning point was when they had Chewie walking around going, "I'm a Wookiee, I'm a Wookiee," constantly.
Love it.
I think that was a little bit too far.
That's podcast gold right there.
I said, just cut everything out. Just put that in.
Yeah, that's right. And the film is so much different now that apparently the original directors aren't going to challenge for any director credit on the film because it's so far different to what they did originally.
That makes me like them a little bit more.
Yeah, I reckon that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, moving on to the Marvel world, there's still not a lot released since we last spoken about Infinity Wars, so they're keeping everything close to their chest, which is good. I think there'll be a lot to come out once Ant-Man and Wasp comes out next month.
Yep.
It's so damn cool that we're getting this so quickly too. So I think we'll see the ramifications of that at the end of Ant-Man and Wasp.
Yes.
But over in the Spider-Man universe, which is still quite up in the air considering, Jake Gyllenhaal is in talks to play the villain Mysterio in the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming.
2 amazing things there. Number 1, awesome that Jake Gyllenhaal might be jumping into the series for the first time. But 2, Mysterio as the villain is just bloody amazing. And I really hope they give him the fishbowl helmet. Otherwise, people on the internet might just burn everything down. Because
I
people
agree.
really care about this fishbowl helmet.
Well, I didn't know much about the character, but I just did some homework, and I didn't know that he basically doesn't even have any powers. He's just he's basically an illusionist. Is that right? He's a specialist wizard for a major studio, and he just been able to pull off all these different illusions, and that's how he causes his drama. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. So yeah, he's basically like, I think it was 60s or 70s villain, but it's that. So everyone thinks he's magic, and Spider-Man like, who's this magic guy? But it turns out he's just like a top-notch special effects guy. So I think it's such a cool concept.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
I was reading a post where it would be awesome if this was another team-up one where he teamed up with Doctor Strange, who was like investigating these magical things that he couldn't understand. But then it turns out that it's what Peter Parker works out that he's not actually magic; he's a special effects wizard. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome. As I said, they can do a lot there, so fingers crossed. As I said, I don't know how this whole deal works, but I don't know if Marvel is involved in the sequel. Hopefully they are. Hopefully they just don't leave it to Sony because they'll just fuck it up. So, but the good news keeps rolling for the Spider-Man Homecoming sequel. Michael Keaton is returning
Yes.
to play the Vulture in the sequel.
Which is, yeah, fantastic. Thank God they made a great villain and they're not stuffing it up by leaving on the cutting room floor.
I agree, and it's so cool. And we spoke about this when the movie came out. I'm so glad that they're not killing their villains off so quickly
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
Like they're letting them build an arc, not only for themselves, but the continuation of obviously the story between the hero and the villain as well. We don't have to
Yes.
wrap up these stories so damn quickly. So maybe they are starting to set up the Sinister Six. Obviously, we know
That would be
Scorpions
awesome.
in this world. We know Vulture's in this world now. Mysterio's in this world. Possibly Venom will come into this world. So
We'll
if
see
they
about
can
that.
get the Rhino back in, probably not Paul Giamatti's the Rhino, but if we can get a different take on that, and we still got obviously we still got the Goblin to come in as well into this universe. So there's so much they can do with this, and obviously we hope Tom Holland's character comes back. I don't know, but everything seems to be on track for this sequel.
Well, they've already set up Miles Morales, so they could just, Tom Holland might not come back. We might get a
Yeah,
Miles.
it's possible, but I would be devastated because,
Yeah.
as I said, they've finally nailed one, and I would hate that it gets ruined,
I'm with you.
but I can't see that.
No.
Can't see it happening. All right. Well, as we touched upon in the intro, there's a story that came out that Peter Jackson. Oh, actually, we spoke about Steven Spielberg dipping his toe into the DCEU. Now there's talks that Peter Jackson is mulling the decision whether to dip his toe also into the DCEU or jump on board Amazon's TV Lord of the Rings.
And as I said before, I think this is probably a lose-lose situation.
Don't be such a hater. The original the Lord of the Rings trilogy is fucking super impressive. I know
I completely agree. I think it's amazing.
you can still like both. I don't understand, the debate between you can only like Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. Lord of the Rings is completely different to Star
No,
Wars.
who
Isn't it?
said that? I love Lord of the Rings.
Really? I thought you
Yeah.
were a hater.
No, I'm a hater of The Hobbit.
Oh, okay, yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that trilogy, that series broke him.
I
Like,
only seen one and a half of that
yes.
trilogy.
He needs to get away. I watched a mini documentary on his progress making that film, and I think it shattered the man. So he needs to get away from that, whether it's television or whatever. A DC, maybe that could be okay, but that's a sinking ship. So is that really what you want to jump onto?
Yeah. Plus, they haven't really said what film he would be directing. So,
Because it's a Swamp
as
Thing
a-
film.
yeah, he could do that.
Yeah.
But that's the TV show though now. That's on their
Oh,
streaming
of course
service.
it is. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I can't do that. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know what he'd do, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just think, and I don't know about this Lord of the Rings television series anyway.
They are throwing so much money at it. It's not funny. They
want a
need
Game
it
of
to be.
Thrones. Yeah.
Yeah, and they need it to be the Game of Thrones, but I don't know if it's going to be.
Well, good luck to him. Look, I hope it's awesome, but I'm not gonna bet my house on it.
Yeah. Well, there's something that we're both very excited for, and I think this week they kind of dulled my excitement for this TV show. They're obviously doing a TV show of The Watchmen, which we're both really geared up for.
Yeah.
But this week, they're pretty much the producer, Damon Lindelof, who's done Lost and The Leftovers. The Leftovers is a fantastic series if you get a chance to watch it. He's pretty much written like a 5-page letter telling social media not to expect a direct adaptation of the original comic book. It's a new story set in the same world in the present day.
And can I just say, I think that's the right way to do it.
Really? I was kind of pissed off about this.
Why would I want to watch the what I've sort of already got? I mean, the film was basically panel for panel of the comic book. We've kind of got that already.
Yeah, but I was kind of hoping because they've done so much background work. They did this fantastic series called Before Watchmen,
Yeah.
where it basically told the backstory of every single character. And I was hoping that would kind of go on that line, but it looks like we're getting all new characters that won't even have any relation to the original characters that I actually really love so much.
I'm sure there'll be some kind of relationship to what's come. We might get like the child of Silk Spectre and Night Owl or something like that.
But those films were set in the 80s. You know, we're 30 years from that. Like, this is a quote that he said. He said the original 12 issues were our Old Testament. When the New Testament came along, it did not erase what came before it. So basically, he's saying we're still, you know, the comedian is still dead. Dan and Laurie are still in love. Ozymandias saved the world. Dr. Manhattan just left after blowing Rorschach up. So as I said, like, I want to see what came after that.
You do?
Yes, I want to see a direct sequel to it. I want to see.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
I want to see, like, at the end of the comic book, Rorschach, before he dies, obviously, he basically drops his diary to the press, which basically details everything. I want to see the ramifications of that as well. Like, I don't want to see what happens 30 years later with a whole new bunch of superheroes.
Look, I'm sure they'll play with that. It will, or even be superheroes in it.
Yeah.
Maybe there won't be. That could be interesting. Look, I'm excited. I think this is the right way to go about it. I do take your point that a direct sequel would have been really, like, it would have been interesting just to scene one directly after the final scene of the film. But I kind of like this. And you know what? I don't think they're going to do this, but it would have been fantastic because in the comics, they did a kind of big crossover event where Dr. Manhattan was like responsible for creating the DC universe.
Oh, okay. Is that the Doomsday Clock series?
Yeah.
I have to read that.
So it could have been good if they just used him to do a little bit of a reboot. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be fantastic.
Yeah. So look, a while ago, Kevin Smith said something which was so perfect. He goes, you know, the reason why studios, you know, reboot or rehash or bring things back to life is because they spend so much money in getting a brand out there and getting the brand well known that they don't have to do this when you're doing a sequel or a reboot or something. So I'm just worried that they're just using the Watchmen name to basically give us a whole different take on, you know, a Watchmen-esque world.
Yeah, okay,
is what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I'm with you. It needs to have, even if not the same characters, obviously, but clear ties to what's come before. It needs to exist in the same world.
Yeah, because for me, it wasn't about the world that they created. It was about the characters that were in it. So that's why I love the book so much.
Yeah.
And of course, it was just so well written. So as I said, I was kind of let down. But in saying that too, they did announce some of the cast that's going to be in this. And so far, so good. They've got a incredible actress named Regina King. She's been in a lot of TV series. You probably don't know the name, but if you saw her face, you'll recognize her. She is a standout. Miami Vice star Don Johnson and old school 80s action star Lou Gossett Jr.
Yep. I don't know any of those people.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Who am I talking to sometimes?
Well, sometimes I think the age difference between us is a lot more than just the couple of years that it actually is.
You never really heard... You ever heard of Don Johnson?
No.
No?
Sorry.
Lou Gossett Jr.? No?
I know... I've looked him up and I know like his face, but if you told me just who he was, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, of course, that guy, Iron Eagle.
All right, fair enough. As I said, I didn't think the age gap was that different, but surely it is.
No. I'm just, I'm hip. I'm with the new trends.
How soon can your son start talking?
Well, I'll get him up to speed. It's all right.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you say Louis Gossett Jr.?
Exactly.
One thing I'll say just before we move on from this thing, moving 30 years in the future, I think actually fits in with the spirit of the comic, because the comic is all about what happened in the past and how that's affecting the present. You've got the two ages in the comics. You've got the golden age when the comedian first started, and with the original Night Owl and stuff like that, and then the 80s was like the next generation. So this will be the next generation again. So I kind of like it. Yeah.
But as I said, the thing about Watchmen as well is that these people didn't have superpowers. They just were people who just stood up for other people. And if you look at that type of scenario in a real world scenario now, it kind of just looks laughable, if that makes sense, where obviously in a Marvel universe, people have got powers and people know, you can do this, you can do this. And it's kind of expected. But if I saw an idiot walking down in Hawkman's, is it Hawkman or... I can't remember what his name. Oh, no, Night Owl from if I saw him walking down the street, you'd laugh at it.
Well,
So
I'd be impressed by his cosplay, but yeah.
yeah, but you still laugh at it. So as I said,
And they might play with
wait.
that. That could be
Yeah.
something they go with. Like, maybe the concept is people lose their faith in those kinds of symbols because of everything that's happened, and it's all like corporate and government, and that's all
Yeah.
people believe in anymore.
Yeah, no, fair point. As I said, it's we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's been talks of rebooting the Men in Black franchise. We spoke about this a while ago. As I said, I'm not a massive fan of that franchise. I necessarily didn't like all three of the first films, so I wasn't quite excited about this one. But, they're slowly adding some decent names to this Men in Black 4. They've already got Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, who were both in Thor Ragnarok. And now it looks like they're adding Liam Neeson as the head of the Men in Black.
Which is pretty cool.
Meh.
Yeah, look, that's a good cast. Forget about the film.
I'm just glad that he's not doing another fucking Taken spin-off, to be honest.
Well, look, who knows? Could be Men in Black Reboot 2. His alien daughter gets taken to another planet.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, it's possible.
But, yeah.
So basically, the new story is kind of basically a rehash of part one. Thompson plays a new recruit at a London branch of the Men in Black, who finds herself partnered with former ace Men in Black agent H, who is Chris Hemsworth. The pair soon find themselves embroiled in a murder mystery that will see them crossing the globe.
Look, I like the first one. Didn't think much of the sequels, but look, if they can nail a part of that charm, I'm down. And Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson are fantastic comedic actors, so look, I'm excited.
Yeah, they're both pretty good in Thor Ragnarok, so we'll wait and see. All right, while Sylvester Stallone is pulling on the red bandana once again, he is going to write, direct, and star in the new Rambo 5 film. And if you're curious who he's taking on this time, he's taking on none other than the Mexican cartel.
Of course. Why wouldn't you?
Exactly, why wouldn't you? If they've beaten everyone else, why not go after the cartel?
He's got a list on his wall. People whose asses I haven't kicked yet. And there's all these like crossed out names, and that was like the next one down on the list.
Well, the story of this one is that John Rambo has returned to the US and now lives on a ranch. When a friend's daughter is kidnapped by the drug cartel, he has to cross the Mexican border to get her back.
He's definitely going to die in this one, isn't he?
Who knows, mate? Depends how much money it makes.
That's probably a good point. He's got like 2 cuts of the final film, depending on like what the audience reaction is to begin with. No.
Correct. Kind of what like George Lucas did when he put Star Wars out. He never put Episode 4 on the top of the scroll.
Yeah.
It's only later on when it came out on VHS and everything else, they're like, shit, we made a shitload of money.
Yeah.
We better make another one.
We're watching the Blu-ray, and he's like, didn't he die in this movie? No, apparently not.
No, exactly. So, yeah. I didn't mind Rocky 4. I thought that was one of the bloodthirstiest films I've ever seen in my life. So if it go on those lines... Oh, yeah, sorry, Rambo 4.
I'd like to see that crossover, though.
Rocky and Rambo.
Rocky and Rambo teaming up.
Split screen action.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see that too. All right, there's just quickly, there's a YouTube have started production on their own TV series. Everyone now is basically driving their own content because they're seeing how much money they could make.
Yeah.
And their first TV show that they released was a TV show called The Cobra Kai, which is basically a continuation of the Karate Kid story. Now, I actually watched it, and I actually really, really enjoyed it. So I'm glad to announce now that they've renewed it for a second season.
I've really been wanting to make the time to sit down and watch this. I watched all the trailers, and I watched all the lead-up, but I just haven't found the time. So I'm glad to hear that it's good.
Yeah, and they did the smart thing of releasing the first 2 episodes for free on YouTube, and I think within the first couple of days they racked up something like 20 million views. So it's been a massive success for them. Whether that has been enough for people to buy the subscription to see the rest of the series, we'll wait and see. But the series itself is quite good, and the way that they've told the story is they've actually told the story of Johnny, who was the basically the bully in the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
But they've told it in such a way, and there's such an incredible flashback in it where it actually shows Daniel is actually the bully of the story, and it makes complete sense. So they've done a really good job with it. I think they kind of got muddled up on who's the hero, who's the villain in this piece towards the end.
Yeah.
But it was still enough nostalgia there to basically make me excited for the second season.
And that's, I think, again, we're talking, this is like the postmodernist episode. This is postmodernism done right. We're taking something from the past, we're reevaluating it, we're putting a new spin. So
Yeah.
congratulations to them.
Yeah. Look, for me, like they kind of made the Johnny character like Encino Man, like he's been asleep since the Karate Kid, and he doesn't really know what's happened since then. Like he's got no idea what the internet is, or what Facebook is, or what a smartphone is. So that kind of annoyed me a little bit. But as I said, there was still enough there for me to get excited for the second season.
Fantastic. I'm going to make time now.
Yeah, no, give it a crack. All right. Well, as we said before, we didn't get a chance to last week when Deadpool came out. So we'll talk about Deadpool 2 now. If you haven't seen the film, we'll give our first thoughts. I thought if you enjoyed the first film, you'll definitely enjoy the second film.
Yeah, I would probably say that I didn't enjoy it as much as the first.
Oh, thank God you're not the only one.
Yeah.
As I said, I didn't think it was any better or worse than the first.
Yeah.
But I still gave probably the first film maybe 3 out of 5 stars. I wasn't raving about it like everyone else was. So I'm so glad someone else has the same opinion of what I felt when I walked out of the film.
Well, I probably would have given the first one 4 and this one 3.
Ooh.
Out of 5. Yeah, I think it was in some ways a decided subject. In some ways, it was just as good in many ways, but there was just enough in there to sort of bring it down. I still enjoyed myself. I still had fun watching it, but overall, I wouldn't rush out. I think this one you could probably wait till it comes on, the iTunes or the Netflixes.
Yeah, I agree. And, if you're a fan of the film, first one, obviously, and the character, you'll love it.
Yeah.
But as a film itself, it's just like, meh.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah.
All right, so...
Spoilers?
Yes, so we're going to talk about some spoilers now. So if you haven't seen the film, as usual, press pause. We'll wait for you. Go watch it, come back, and we'll press play when you're ready.
Yeah.
All right, so as I said, for me, I did like that they were able to go quite dark so quickly in this one. I thought, they're really going for something here. And then, like, the end credit scenes kind of just spoiled all of that. Yeah. And they're pretty much, like, you've just gone through this journey of kind of not necessarily a revenge, but kind of Deadpool having to deal with things that we kind of thought he wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the mid-credit scenes, they just undo everything that they just did.
And the writers have come out and said that they regret that. And can I just say, when I sat down and the first thing they did was, you see Daredevil blowing himself up because he's Deadpool. I think I did this last time. When you see Deadpool blowing himself up because he's sad, I thought she'd left him at that point. And then we find out that she'd been killed. And that just put me in a foul mood. Yeah, and she was pregnant, yeah. I'm like, that is, to me, is very lazy writing. To just take what they established in this first film and shit on it and just say, well, that's going to be the impetus for his new arc, I think it's just really lazy. And it's this go-to that people seem to do in sequels in order to... I don't know why they do it, because it's easy, it seems to me.
But for me, the story didn't necessarily have to do that.
Yes.
Like we saw it in the first 10 minutes, and then it was kind of forgotten after that, as soon as the Cable story kind of kicked in.
Yeah, I completely agree. They didn't need that. And
then we didn't really see it again until the mid-credit scene. So, as I said, it was kind of chop, and then we're like, oh, hang on, maybe fans won't like that. We'll just go back and redo it.
Yeah. Two things. First thing is, I did the thing when he's like seeing her in the afterlife throughout the film. Like, I kind of dug, and to be honest, I did get a little bit choked up at the end when he goes and sees her, and he like reverts back to his old beautiful face, and they have a moment, and then I actually got a little bit choked up at that point in the film because I really like those two. I really love their relationship, but it was not worth it for the place that they took the film, I thought. And then, as you said, they sort of retconned it anyway.
Yeah. So let's go and talk about some of the key elements of the film.
Just before we move on, I want your opinion on this, because one of the reasons why this film has also got flack is because of what people are calling fridging. Have you ever heard this before?
No.
It's when I think it was from a comic book, where the love interest of the main character is killed or taken out, and she's the only reason she's there is to give the hero something to do. And it's this idea of taking complete agency away from the female character and just giving it all to the male lead.
Oh, yeah.
And it came from, I think it was a Green Lantern, where his love interest was put in a fridge for the entire comic series to make him go on sort of like a revenge spree.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought that with this as well, because they gave, I can't remember, what's the character's name again? That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
I know
I can't
Monica's. Anyway, so they gave her, I thought she had agency in the first one. I thought she had some interesting things to say and do. I thought they kind of took that away a little bit towards the end. She kind of became a little bit of a damsel. But
Yeah,
here
she did, yeah.
was
Her name was Vanessa.
Vanessa, that's right. But here it was like, that was everything in the film. And I wanted them to build on their relationship, not tear it down. I thought it was very lazy. But yeah, it's interesting that concept of fridging, and I'm going to keep an eye on it to see what it looks like in the future, if it sort of does come up a little bit, or if it's just something that people make up on the internet.
Yeah. And then obviously we got the introduction then to Cable,
Yep.
which I was quite excited for.
Yep.
But kind of let down towards the end of the film. I just kind of thought, not that he was kind of wasted, but the whole premise for him coming back, we've already seen that before.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin was good, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, he was good. I think everyone was good in this film, just quite. Like, all the actors were very good.
Yeah.
I think the script is what let it down.
So basically, he comes back from the future to kill a kid who basically grows up and destroys pretty much, most of the population, including his wife and daughter.
Yep.
So he comes back to kill him. And then it was kind of weird because I couldn't understand, even though it was a kid and Deadpool necessarily didn't want to kill a kid, Deadpool couldn't see, like he's just so relentless in killing anyway. He couldn't see
Yep.
what this kid was actually capable of, and he was kind of a bit too quick in my mind to kind of want to change him so quickly. Like, even though he basically has been on the verge of a killing spree anyway,
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean,
saying that the kid just needs a hug, if that makes sense, and will make him feel better.
I completely agree. I think they missed the mark here. Like, when he meets the kid, he literally shoots one of his abusers in the face.
Exactly.
And then he's like, no, you can't kill that other guy. And they never, and I thought they were going to address the thing like, I kill because I'm a terrible person. Like, I don't want you to grow up like me. But they never really addressed that at all. So
Yeah.
are we moving into a situation where Deadpool doesn't kill? Is the next Deadpool going to be a PG film? Like, I thought that tonally there, you're absolutely right. They sort of stuffed up.
Yeah, and I was really excited when they announced the actor who plays the boy, Julian Dennison, him coming off Hunt for the Wilder People. He was fantastic in that, and they didn't give him any comedy chops at all, which is what I thought he was brought into this film to be.
Yeah.
There was such a great opportunity for this kid and Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds to play off each other so well.
Yeah.
But they just turned him into this little fucking prick so quickly that they didn't get a chance to. He just turned into this little madman that just wanted to kill. And I can understand why, because he'd been tortured and abused for so long. But yeah, they kind of turned him too dark too quickly.
I agree. At the times when he was best, when he was improvising, like he actually got a chuckle out of me when he was when he teamed up with the Juggernaut and he was leaving Deadpool in two pieces on the ground and he was doing that kind of like miming, walking away. Like, that was the best part. And obviously that was improvised. Like, you're right. They needed to play into his strengths a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, and they definitely didn't. Then we got the introduction of Domino. I thought she was cool.
Yeah, she was cool.
Probably not enough of her.
Yep.
As you said, there was a real chance to give her a real hero piece in this film, and I don't think they really gave it to her. Not like we've seen, say, example, with Valkyrie and Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Kind of see that badass woman take charge, which in the comics she does, and she can do quite perfectly, but I don't think she really had her moment just yet.
All she did in this one is like drive the truck for a little while.
Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then obviously you mentioned before, we see one of the villains that I loved growing up in the X-Men universe, Juggernaut.
Yeah.
And again, I thought, even though it was a vast improvement on the Vinnie Jones one we saw in X-Men 3, I still was fucking disappointed with him because he was just like this mindless meathead who just wanted to destroy shit. And I'm probably overthinking it because we've been so blessed lately with villains and the depth that's been given. Just to see these things rush so quickly and then killed off so quickly, I'm just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
But as I said, maybe I'm expecting too much. I know this is the Deadpool universe. It's not the MCU. And I understand, that we are, on the lighter edge of these films. But in saying that too, we don't need to rush all these things.
And I will give a studio head or script writer or director $10 when they finally acknowledge that Juggernaut isn't a mutant. I think I think Ryan Reynolds was legit in the film when he was saying, "I love this character. It's my favorite character." Like Deadpool was saying this, like, "It's my favorite character from the comics," and all that kind of stuff. Like, give him his due. Like, they could have used any other character there, yeah. And I think that they wanted it for that CG fight.
Well, there was talks that Mr. Sinister was going to be in this, and it was going to set up that storyline, and I was kind of looking forward to that, and that didn't happen, which goes on the story that or the themes that we've talked about previously with the Last Jedi, where the fan theories were so awesome, and then when none of them prevailed, you were disappointed, and you ended up not liking the film. So
I wonder though, because like you've got this orphanage where they're like doing experiments on mutants. I wonder if it actually originally was a Mr. Sinister story, and they've had to, they didn't get the rights to that character.
Yeah,
like that.
that's possible too.
Because they had this whole subplot with Domino returning to the orphanage where she grew up, but nothing came of that.
Yeah.
So maybe there was more there, and they've had to do some, late in the piece rewrites or something.
Yes. Look, even though we're coming across as a bit negatives, don't get me wrong, there are some funny parts in this.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite part was when he's walking around the house,
with his baby legs.
and he's like, and he's got the baby legs, and we get a Basic Instinct moment with his little baby dick as well, so that was quite funny. And then when he's in the X-Men mansion, and he's like, why the fuck is this place always so empty? Yeah. And then we quickly see all the X-Men in a room, and they're sliding the doors shut. I thought that was quite clever.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't make sense because it was the young X-Men, not the old X-Men. The timeline is completely fucked there, but we do know that they were filming The Dark Phoenix, so they probably just got the casting quickly. Let's just shoot something so we can put it in that film. But as I said, there were some funny parts, but it was still kind of a letdown.
I didn't realize that Colossus and Deadpool were such good friends, because in this one they're like best buddies.
Yeah. Maybe the relationship grew since the last time we saw them.
And look, I'm down with that. I think the Colossus in this film is cool, but and more of it. But it was just a funny little development. I think that something's happened with the script where they've had to rush a few things or change a few things last minute to make it, as you say, like Juggernaut was rushed. A couple of other characters didn't get their due. Had some funny moments, but didn't come together.
And it was quite funny when they started setting up the X-Force, and they're like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. And then they fucking killed them all.
Which I kind of dig, because when they were introducing all these characters, I'm like, I don't care about these people, and they don't look good. But then the payoff was that they died in hilarious ways, and that was great. But it would have been nice if they just didn't have any of that and focused more on developing Domino and Cable. Yeah.
I was... One of my favorite parts of the second trailer was the introduction of the character Peter, who was just the guy who saw the ad and applied. And I don't think they gave him, like, they could have done so much with that character as well, and they kind of got rid of him quickly, even though they brought him back.
Dopinder, he kind of plays that role, so they doubled it up a little bit. Like, I love the introduction of the new character as well, but they've kind of already got him.
And then obviously they had the massive cameo, which I don't know how they pulled off. They got Brad Pitt to play the Vanisher, and even though you only see him for 3 seconds of the film,
I did not even realize that.
You serious?
Yeah.
Because obviously the Vanisher
is just a second.
Yeah, you see him for just a second. That's Brad Pitt.
That's so funny. I didn't pick up on that at all.
Yeah, so that they managed to get him in for 3 seconds.
Maybe buds.
Yes. So as I said, you've had our thoughts on the film. So the best part for me was probably the mid-credit scene. I thought that was probably the best part of the film.
Yeah, definitely.
So the mid-credit scene basically has Deadpool taking Cable's time-traveling device, which they kind of fucked up again, just quickly going back on the ending. Cable could only he could only use it once.
Yeah.
So he does it once to save Deadpool. But now they've just opened up the whole story again, because now the time-traveling device has been fixed, and the only reason why Cable stays is because he's already used this once and he knows his family's safe, so now he's staying. So what's stopping him going back now for his family?
I think it's just a classic example of the joke overcoming the logic of they've already established.
Yeah.
Like, this is hilarious. Who cares about the logic? Let's just make this funny.
Yeah. So Deadpool then goes back in time. He saves Peter, but he's more than happy to let the other X-Force characters die. But then it gets really funny from here. He goes back in time and he kills what was the film called?
Was it
Wolverine?
Was it Wolverine?
Yeah, it was just called Wolverine, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Which
sure.
was the first spin-off film. He goes back and actually goes back into that movie and kills that
What do they call him?
mute
Baraka
version. Yeah, that mute version of Deadpool that they set up. So he goes back and he kills that. Then he goes back further and he kills the real life Ryan Reynolds while he's holding the Green Lantern script, and he says, "You're welcome, Canada." And then of course he goes back and he saves his girlfriend Vanessa.
Yeah, which is again, pretty silly.
Yeah. So as I said, it's going to make a shit ton of money. So I don't think they were too fussed of what came out of it. They always knew it was going to be a hit. So now it's just a matter of waiting and seeing how they fix all of that in the new X-Force film.
If that, yeah, I don't know. Do you think they'll still go ahead with it?
Yeah, they will. It's made a hell of a lot more money. And I think it was already planned before this whole Disney buyout anyway. So,
okay.
And it came out this week, actually, that another company called Comcast has outbidded Disney for the rights of the Fox characters. So I don't know. I didn't read too much of that. So there is a possibility that this crossover still might not happen.
Everyone hates Comcast. They're an American telecommunications company.
Correct. So that was the story that came out last week. Yes. So now all of a sudden, everyone's gearing up for the X-Men to join the MCU, but all of a sudden Disney's been outbidded. But Disney is fucking huge. They just bought the rights for a stadium here in Melbourne. They're calling it Marvel Stadium now. So I severely doubt they're going to get outbid on this, but it's a wait and see on that.
They say they plan to outbid Disney. Let's see what happens.
Yes. So, all right. Well, that wraps up another episode of Not Another Movie Podcast. I am Sean Pierce.
And I am Sean Kelly.
And good luck for the next 3 weeks with your baby. Hopefully it is only the 6-week stretch that they are unsettled for.
And then
let your week be a good week.
After that.
Exactly. Let your week be a good week until next week.